and welcome to the channel. Today we've got a red background that basically combines a whole bunch with my red face. I don't know why my face is kind of red. I think that is the contrast. I don't know, the lighting is horrible. But, well, aside from that, today we're gonna be talking about Narnia, the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, which is a book that I have been expecting to read for a long time, and I am really happy. So let's roll the titles and let me tell you a story. So as I promised, I'm gonna tell you a story. So what I'm gonna be doing is drinking hot chocolate while I'm telling you the whole thing. So to start out, we're gonna be talking about the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But I've gotta tell you where this book comes from and why it's special to me and all of the things. So we're gonna go into a little bit of the storytelling. Let's go. So now the thing is, I don't give a fuck actually about reading on the computer or reading on the cell phone. I mean, like, I can read on ebooks and I tend to do that because I mean, like, it's a big difference to read physical books or to read electronic books and all of that, but it's the same to me. I mean, like, if I can't write an entire book on the computer, I can read them, so it's not actually a problem to me. So you might say, oh, it's not actually a problem. Yeah, whatever. There's a thing. So my best friend and I, we always go to libraries, just to see what books we want to buy and what stories we're interested in, and we criticize a whole bunch of that. But we always end up in the section of classics, and Narnia is in there. And what I've always told him is, dude, this is the only series of books that I think that I wouldn't be able to read if I didn't read them physical. Like, I can read any book on ebooks. I don't care. But Narnia is like, I need to hold that book. I need to. The 7 books, I want them on physical. Because I grew up with the movies, so this is the first book I've ever read of Narnia. Now, why is this important? Sort of like a month ago, my best friend and I finally met each other back, because quarantine and all of that, so we haven't seen each other in a while. And he found this, and he gifted me this, which is the most thoughtful thing ever. So this book holds a special place in my heart, not only because I grew up with the story, but because he gifted me this. It's the Spanish version of it, of course, because yeah, that's what you find in this country. It's kind of really hard to get the English version. But that's pretty much my little story on why Narnia, and this book in particular, is important, and why we're talking about this book, where we're gonna be discussing it. So that's the thing. Thank you so much to Christian for actually gifting me this. So now we're gonna discuss this book because it actually has a lot to say about it. So the thing is, we need to talk a little bit about Tolkien as well, besides C.S. Lewis, because Tolkien is one of the reasons why C.S. Lewis wrote this book. And so the thing is that Tolkien basically introduced, or at least introduced C.S. Lewis to his religion, and Lewis decided that he needed to, well, I'm not telling you the story like it is facts, so don't think this is facts, because I'm telling it like I tell it. This is not exactly how it happened, okay? So the whole thing of that. So Narnia has a lot of connotation that has to do with religion, and it's actually quite interesting to see it. Especially because I'm not a religious person, so I cannot tell you every little part, but I can tell you the ones that I recognized. Like, I don't know, I think that in my notes I have a part in which I was like, a wild thing, of C.S. Lewis to compare. Oh, here it is in my notes. The White Witch being the daughter of Lilith. Damn, Lewis, you went far. That is the thing. So basically, Lilith was kind of a demon, like one of the first demons and all that. I'm taking all of my lore from Supernatural mostly, but I've got some of the lore that I investigated myself sometimes, you know? And I find it hilarious that the White Witch is actually the daughter of Lilith, because wow, that says a lot. That says a lot. Anyways, besides that, I'm gonna try to do this as chronologically as possible, but well, I just needed to say that we need to talk about religion a little bit when we are discussing this book because it's kind of important, you know, which is gonna be super interesting. So one thing that I have seen on the internet is, for example, people complaining about the fact that the apparition of Santa Claus makes no fucking sense on the inside of the story. And I'm calling bullshit on that because they mention like about 3 times, 3 or 4 times that I could count, that it's always winter but never Christmas. So it makes fucking sense as Santa Claus is basically just appearing in the story because it is a thing that is linked to Christmas, you know. So sometimes I feel like people don't pay attention when they read. I mostly confirm it, but like it makes sense, you know. So we're gonna leave that behind, but like I know that it can break you away from the story, like it can pull you away. Oh fucking god, speak correctly. I know that it can pull you away from the story, but inside the story it makes fucking sense that Santa Claus just appears because the curse has been broken, you know, and it's the end of winter and it's finally Christmas, so that's something, you know, like makes sense. So one thing, I'm gonna be reading my notes. So well, for one, I was super surprised by the book, no, but by the movie, because the movie is so loyal to source material. They, I swear to you that I haven't watched the movie for a long time. Like I don't remember when it was the last time, but I was so surprised that everything I was reading on the book is in the movie. I mean, like there are a few scenes that might be missing. I don't know, when they go to the castle of the White Witch, and they awake every person that was turned into stone. I think that the only thing that they don't awake in the movie, and I might be wrong because I haven't watched it in like a long time. I think the only thing that they were missing was the giant, but then it's like everything is there, and I was so surprised by that. You know, like the movie made a great job at that, and I think that that's why it's so dear. I don't know. So congratulations to the movie. Like I think that a decade later, a little bit more, I'm congratulating it, but I was actually glad to see that. So now we're gonna go into it. So one of the things watching the movie I never understood was the sweets that Edmund needs. You know, the Turkish delight. So they were enchanted. I never understood that in the movie. I mean, like it is a, a thing that is said in the book from the perspective of the witch. So of course we weren't supposed to know, but I always thought, oh my god, this kid, and that's funny anyways because Edmund is one of my favorite characters. But I always told I always told the best of the worst of him, and it was because it wasn't even his fault. Like it was enchanted. The Turkish delight was enchanted, so fuck. Then, Edmund behaves quite crappy towards his siblings. Well, that's the understatement of the year, of the century, I guess, because he is quite a crappy kid. I mean, like in the movie, they don't show this as much, but in the book, oh my god, your behavior, dude. Funny thing, he's still one of my favorite characters. Anyways, uh, another one of my notes. Lucy is like the nicest kid ever. Like seriously, Lucy is such a sunshine. I mean, like you can see that throughout the entirety of the story and the other movies, you know. But she is literally the embodiment of kindness and happiness, and I love that about her. It makes me happy. Then the professor trying to convince Susan and Peter to believe Lucy's story about a secret world inside a wardrobe through logic is such a mood. Because seriously, the dude, there comes a point in which they say, "Hey, we believe Lucy might be lying, you know," and this is a weird behavior because Lucy never lies. So why will she be lying about this? And he goes like, "Yeah, use logic to realize if your sister is lying or not." I mean, like if she never lied before, it doesn't make sense that she lies now, right? Right? It doesn't make sense. So he basically tries to convince Susan and Peter to believe Lucy through logic, and I was like, mood. That is a mood. Like, loved it. Um, then the different ways in which they felt when hearing Aslan's name for the first time tell a lot about their personalities and their roles throughout the book. That is so fucking true. That is something that I realized throughout it, which makes me happy to have seen the movie before reading the book, because probably I wouldn't have picked it up like the first time that I read it if I did. But Edmund's reaction to hearing Aslan's name was very different to Peter, Susan, and Lucy, and that pretty much set the mood, because it makes you understand his character better. Like he was kind of afraid when he heard Aslan's name, but he was also like a little, I don't know, kind of like fighting it somehow. Defiant, let's say. Yeah, defiant is a word. So that was quite interesting. Seriously, it tells a lot about their personalities. So that's there. Now to continue on my notes, there's the here I say Mr. Reader has the same machine. Funny thing, the world is more similar to ours than anyone would have thought. So that's pretty much something that I basically put there just to make it, because I was wondering the same thing of everyone's surprised that Santa Claus shows up. Like, why would you be surprised if like there are plenty of things that I don't know throughout the story show you that Narnia is like has a whole bunch of similarities with our world. So it just, I don't know, it makes sense to me. Certain things like the way in which it's built, it makes sense. It makes sense inside the story. So, so the mention of Aslan being compared to a sensation of the first signs of spring, like the arrival of good news. So that's heartwarming, I put, and it honestly is, like completely and without a moment of hesitation. Like I felt so happy when I was reading that part, like how everyone feels protected by the idea of it, and it makes you think about religion, because even though I am not, I can understand where the feeling is coming from and how people feel in general when, I don't know, Jesus is mentioned or God, uh, and kind of I feel like Lewis tried to emulate that feeling in here, and he kind of got it right. Um, then I was here. Why is it that Edmund had a bad feeling about at the mention of Aslan? They mentioned that again. It's because of, on difference to the others, Edmund met the witch and fell for her, or because all of his previous actions led him to meet with the witch. And that's a question I basically thought of because uh, I was just trying to rationalize in here just to see why does this kid feel different. I mean, like Susan, Lucy, and Peter were feeling in a certain way. I mean, like, and they come from all the same places. And later in the story, it's mentioned that in the new school that they are going, that's the place in which Edmund started to behave differently. And I'm just wondering, like, what the fuck happened in this kid's life before? Like, I want to read more books and just find out if they give any more insight, because the fact that he started to behave differently because he was in a new school, and I don't know, I just feel like this sensation that he is one of the people that needed this journey the most. And in here, I've got another note that goes like Edmund experienced kindness from the witch, or at least what he thought was kindness. That's why he doesn't think she's completely evil, because he's a kid and doesn't know any better. And that comes along with the whole thing of thinking what the fuck happened, in this kid's life before they went to a professor's house, before they went to Narnia, because I completely believe that Edmund confused the witch's interest with kindness. And I mean, like, his siblings are very different to him, but you can actually tell, like, this kid went through stuff that made him think that way. So I don't know. Maybe one of the things that I go through is that he maybe experienced some kind of bullying, abuse in school, and that's why he started changing, and that's why he needed this journey just so he could realize of what kindness really is, and to see people's true colors. And I know that in the future stories, that plays a huge weight on him. I don't know how truthful to the books the other movies are, but for what I've seen in the movies, yeah, especially because he's called Edmund the Just, like he. So I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things. This is why Edmund is one of my favorite characters, because he's never in this position of being either white or black. He kind of falls on the grays on the scale, and there's so much to think about him. It's just intriguing, how he behaves, why he decides to behave this way, and all that. So that's why he's one of my favorite characters, because he actually makes me think a whole lot about his story and makes me want to meet him. The other ones are just like, you're kind of nice, but I'm not as interested. I'm sorry. Okay, then here it is again. The apparition of Santa happens in the part of the books where the chapter literally represents the end of the curse. It makes complete sense. And I'm falling behind all of the same things. But, like, seriously, the apparition of Santa Claus makes fucking sense. Why am I defending this? I don't know. But well, then the story goes on, and that's all I put in my notes, because then I stopped taking notes because I'm lazy as hell. But well, then the story goes pretty much along with everything, and then they rescue Edmund, and Aslan sacrifices for Edmund, which, again, if you compare to religion, is pretty much the sacrifice Jesus made in the cross. So religion is everywhere in this book. Like, you read it and you're like, oh, Jesus did that. Jesus did that, bitch. Then I love the reference at the end of the book. This is something that is said in the movie as well, that Aslan comes and goes, and he has other worlds to look after, and he's not a domesticated cat, and all of that. It's quite interesting. God, I have to stop using the word interesting. I put it everywhere. Anyways, so basically we know the story, but those are the few things that I wanted to point out, because I realized, I love this book. I'm so happy I read it, because it gave me insight on things that I hadn't realized before, or I don't know, it talked better. For example, the sacrifice on the stone table. I hadn't realized of what that meant when I watched the movie back when I was little. And I was always so confused, because when I was young, I didn't know crap about religion. My mom is religious, but she didn't bring me up that way, she let me to take my own decisions, and I never went that route, so I knew nothing about it. So when the movie came, I pretty much didn't know shit. So I was super confused about that sacrifice and what it meant and all of that. Things that happen. So, it gave me a whole bunch of insight on that and some other things. So, I'm glad I read this book. And honestly, more people should read it, because it's beautiful. And I know that it's a children's book, but God, I don't know. I just love the characters. Now, before I forget it, so we can get close in this video, we need to talk about them being kings and all of that, and how they forgot that they came from somewhere else. Because I know that in the narrative, that's the only thing that it actually bothers me from the narrative, because I know that there probably is something that just tells these kids, I don't know, there must be magic involved or anything like it. That's how I get it, that makes them feel like they have lived in Narnia all of their lives. But you didn't. How can you forget about that? But I understand that it might be a spell or something about that, but it just bothered me a hell of a lot that they forgot where they came from. Just how is it that you go around, I don't know, 30 years and no one ever asks you anything about your childhood? You're gonna tell me that you never thought, oh no, we did this, we did that, or something like it. So when they get to the wardrobe again, to the lamppost and all of that, they're super confused. And I was like, how can you be confused? You are a different person, but you should have your memories. So I was just bothered by that. That's the only thing I actually have to criticize, because I know that there might be magic involved. How can you forget that you weren't born in Narnia? How? People must have pointed it out at some point. And you're like, oh yes, I come from the planet Earth, different dimension, all of that. How can you forget? How can you forget? No, that's the only thing I'm not taking from this. But like I said, I know that it makes sense inside the world, magic and all that. But I don't know. And I loved how the professor at the end was basically just going around and telling the kids, yeah, you gotta be careful, because you're not gonna be able to get into Narnia through the same place you went in first. So you're gonna go back there because you were kings and queens of Narnia. But not that way. That way is closed. So you have to wait until Narnia needs you again, or something like it. It was quite interesting. I don't know, and I liked that was the ending. So this is overall a book that makes me happy. So Anyways, with that, I give closing to this. Um, I apologize because you heard me say a whole bunch of bullshit that you're probably not even interested in. But if you listen to me, you actually deserve the medal. So, round of applause to you for listening to me talk about nonsense and all of that. I don't know, I must have made a good point somewhere along, but we know I probably didn't because I talk a whole bunch of bullshit anyways. So, anyways, thank you so much for watching. Well, and remember that you can always leave recommendations in the comments about, you can recommend books, movies, TV shows, you can recommend music. I do a whole bunch of things that I like, so you've got the option, so comment down and tell me what are your thoughts about this book, because I would love to read you about it. So that will be it. Always remember to be positive, kind, and curious, and that's my cue to leave. So goodbye, people.